Pure humiliation. Let's talk about that one, man. That was brutal. Jesus. The Knicks are not. They are no longer in the NBA Cup. Let's talk. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball.
Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
You're trying to close the show. She was doing a great job of feeding. That is over.
Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right. Well, welcome to the podcast, first and foremost. I'm your host, RJ Carbone, and you are listening to episode 588 of BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. It is, as I record this show, Thursday, December 7th. So the Knicks played Tuesday on the 5th, and it was such a bad loss. I needed 2 days to regather my thoughts. I usually record the night after. But it was such a bad loss, I had to sleep on it a few times just to make sure I have more rational thoughts in this episode. But we're going to dive right in because the Knicks lost 146-122 against the Bucks in Milwaukee against the Bucks in the quarterfinal game of the NBA Cup. So they're no longer in the NBA Cup. They do have to play a fake constellation game against Boston, which is wonderful, tomorrow night. But, yeah, they got bitched. Listen, Milwaukee is a tough team. They are my finals favorite. At least coming out of the East, they're my favorite. But, yeah, they're on a different tier than the Knicks are. The Knicks are not on their level yet. And the Knicks, it sucks because the Knicks have to play Milwaukee and Boston 5 times each this season. So that is, 10 out of 82. That's about 12%. Maybe a little more if I'm doing my math correctly. That's about 12% of their schedule against the 2 best teams in the conference when it's all said and done. So that's the in-season tournament, folks. But I'm not complaining. You got to be men and take what's in front of you. And, again, Boston coming up tomorrow night. It's going to be tough. These teams are tough. But we know this, right? We know this. We know where and who the Knicks are. And they have trouble beating tough competition. And that's a big concern of mine. Because at least last year they were able to beat tough competition. That got them the 47 wins, which got them the matchup they wanted in the first round. And this year they're having trouble beating teams that are above them in the seeding. And if they continue to do that, I'm not sure they're going to have the favorable matchup that they want in the first round, and maybe that limits them. But this is kind of going to lead me to my first topic before we even begin with the game itself. And listen, this is totally silly on me to bring up, and I'm a fool. I'm a fool because I bite the bait every single time something like this happens, and I absolutely love the guys on TNT. I think that's an awesome crew. It's a great show, great dudes. Obviously, they're knowledgeable. They're funny. They got great chemistry together. They are an award-winning crew on and off the court, right? And it's my favorite show on television. You can call it a TV show. Because it's just four dudes loving life, chilling, laughing, and talking about hoops. Who doesn't want to do that job? Like, I love them. When I'm feeling down, I watch them and they just cheer me up. But the way that they run their mouths without doing any homework, it's just disappointing to me, man. I think that's the best way I can put it. It's disappointing. Like, I expect more, but at the same time, I don't. Because I get it. I understand it's Knicks for clicks, and you got to make your ratings, all that. But, like, it was difficult to listen to on the pregame. Like, I had a very difficult time listening to them spew such uneducated nonsense, false information, first of all. Like, there was some truth to it, that the Knicks aren't ready yet. But it's like, you can go, yeah. People are like, oh, they weren't lying, they weren't wrong. Yeah, you can go on there and say 2 + 2 is 4. Like, we'll get to that in a second. But there were some stupid things they were saying as well that were incorrect. Like, anybody who watches a, fraction of the Knicks on a day-to-day basis, half their games, could tell you there were things that they said that they were just unbelievably incorrect on. The Paolo Banchero comment, that was laughable. It's almost as if they forgot to watch the postseason last year. He would be better than every Knick. The comment about Randle being the best player on the team was pretty funny and pretty obvious that they don't know what they're watching. I think my personal favorite was when Barkley said that he didn't trust the Knick defense because they allow a little bit of points only because they play at a slow pace. And that right there tells you all you need to know about Chuck's knowledge of what defensive rating is and how defensive rating works, because that's based on per 100 possessions and not per game. It's like a Tom Thibodeau team's going to play defense. Have you paid attention the last 3 years? But yeah, man, it's just like we knew this. Like, we know the Knicks aren't championship contenders yet. We know that. How do we know? Well, because they were just a shitty non-playoff team not long ago. Let it marinate. Like, who goes from that to a finals contender that quickly? It's going to take a second. Philadelphia still hasn't won. They've got superstars over there. Boston, they still haven't won. You guys talk to them, talk about them like they're accomplishing it. Like you praise teams who are in worse spots or similar spots like Orlando and Indiana all the time. The other night, they were, gagging up fucking Halliburton. But whenever you bring up the Knicks, it's, oh, well, they're not there yet. They need a superstar. Like, since when have the Knicks been in this championship or bust window? Why do those teams get credit for taking the next step towards reaching that goal? Like, why do they get the middle? Why do the Knicks just have the floor and ceiling to look at? Where's the positive process that we talk about there? Talk about it. Like, the Knicks they're a young team with a solid coach, a sound front office with picks, team-friendly contracts, and a clear cap sheet. Guys coming off the books, and they've done everything they've needed to do to get to this point. And then you got Stephen A. the next day doing his thing. Superstar. I'm disgusted. This is the worst place to be in the middle. And it's all the same. It's all the same stuff. He found a line from Twitter and he used it. And it's very odd, but again, it's very effective because fools like myself will fall for it every single time. And I'm not trying to make it seem like the Knicks are in this wonderful spot. They're not. But I think they're in a decent spot. right? I think they're in a fine spot where there's more light shining down on this team, on this organization, than there is a shadow casting down on them. And that's all I want. I just want a little respect. But we'll stop there because I could really rant on this for a long time if I wanted to. And let's talk about this 146-122 abysmal loss that the Knicks took from the Milwaukee Bucks on Tuesday night. The first quarter, I mean, the Knicks, their big three, their mid three, was aggressive early on. Randle gets red hot from inside the arc. But the Knicks were playing zero defense. You had AJ Green lighting it up from three early on. Giannis was getting into the paint, and it's 37-35 Milwaukee after one. Second quarter, the Knicks still very poor in rotation. Randle's keeping them in the game offensively, but they keep torching the Knick defense. The Knick hustle a little later in the period. They keep them in it. Randle's diving. Then he passes to Dante for three. That was a nice play. Brunson, right after that, steals the inbound, gets the N1. And the Knicks go into the half down 75-72. But that third quarter, it's been their problem all year. And in a very Minnesota game-like fashion, they come out the gate and they're slow and lazy. Easy blow-bys. Randle's washing a loose ball. Goes back in transition. Poor shot selection for the Knicks. Turnovers. And honestly, about midway through the third quarter, I completely lost interest because I knew at that point the Knicks weren't winning it. They had no chance as soon as Milwaukee got a little bit of momentum. And also at the same time, I had more important things going on in my head, like the Yankees. And at the time they signed Alex Verdugo, and Juan Soto was at the time close to signing, and we all know what happened there, and we are going to discuss that soon. Yankees episode coming soon. I've yet to record it, but I plan on recording and dropping this episode sometime in the next week or two. Probably sooner than that. And maybe we'll have a guest. But the Knicks in the second half completely lost track, and they end up losing again 146-122. You give up 146 points in regulation. That's 60% from the field, 61% from three. 23 three-pointers allowed to fall. 32 assists for the Bucks against just 12 turnovers. Like, you do all that, yeah, you're going to lose. Giannis had 35. Dame had 28. Beasley, 6 of 10 from three. So, first off, credit Milwaukee for a historic night from three. They are the team with more talent. They've got 2 Hall of Famers leading the way there. And the Knicks have 0 Hall of Famers on their roster. So these games are going to happen. So anybody hammering Tom Thibodeau after this game is a bit ridiculous for me. Did he do some things that you wish he didn't and did? Yeah. The RJ minutes were interesting. I thought keeping the starters out there in the third quarter, that continues to be a thing with him. There are a few other things. But to me, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much adjusting you can do against a team that's locking down everything they have. Because if he focuses in on one area defensively, another area becomes a weakness. But that doesn't mean we can't discuss how disgusting whatever that thing was that the Knicks call defense was the other night in Milwaukee, because it was putrid, man. I mean, the Knicks allowed open corner three after open corner three all night long. 38 attempts, again, 61% of them dropped. And that made them vulnerable on the weak side because they were paying so much attention to Damian Lillard in the point of attack. Their pick and roll defense was pretty tough to watch because the Knicks, they were so worried about Dame and Giannis rolling off pick and roll that they were cheating middle and leaving those perimeter looks open. Rotations were very sloppy, especially behind. If the Knicks were playing up on pick and roll to stop the Dame pull-up, he's hitting Giannis in the short roll. But when the Knicks sent bodies to stop Giannis rolling, he's kicking out to open shooters. So that's going to happen when you're playing aggressively on pick and roll. That's why it's very impossible to defend this offense, man. I mean, they're near the top of the league in the East. I don't know if they're first or second or whatever, but they're right there. And this is a team who doesn't give two shits about playing defense right now because they have such a ridiculous star combination with role players who knock down shots outside that. Anything you do, they will find another way to exploit you. If you try helping, they hit the open man. If you go single coverage, they beat you there. If you're not sharp in rotation, that pass is being made to an open shooter. So they were knocking down everything. They killed everybody last night. You know, it's a tough two-man game to stop, that Dame Giannis game, because you have Giannis and his roll gravity, and then you've got Dame and his range gravity, because he can pull up from 35. It's tough. Brunson wasn't good defensively in this game. I thought he played stupid defense. Milwaukee took advantage of him playing off the corners. Very poor off-ball defense from Jalen Brunson. Over-helping on the roll, and I get it. But there were also times where he's just standing in the back line of the paint, and you got Mitch right next to him, so it's like, what are we doing? The effort was pretty diabolical, too. Really rubbed me the wrong way. He was not closing out very hard. The Knicks had a slim lead in the game early on when it was like 8-2, but I feel like Brunson kind of started that poor defense by over-helping off the corners. And later in the game, there was one possession that just bothered the shit out of me, where Portis was wide open in the corner for a good 3 seconds, just standing there, taking his sweet time, and Brunson's right there, but he just decides not to sprint over and close out. And I'm pointing this out because if it was Randle, we would be having a 10-minute conversation talking about this. And it'd be all over Twitter the last few days, right? So I got to point out that I did not like Jalen Brunson's defense. I thought Milwaukee, even when he was on the ball, they picked on him. They picked on his size. Randle actually played decent defense in this game. Pretty unintelligent at times, like he was helping in pick and roll with Hartenstein already in a drop. There was a moment that happened where that left him susceptible to an open corner shooter. And there was not much good defense. Like Josh Hart, one of the few Knicks with a good game. He had Portis shooting over him. RJ was getting shot over by Portis. And that's a problem, right? Backup power forward is an issue. We saw that expose the Knicks against Boston. Power forwards shooting over them like Horford, Tatum. We saw it against Minnesota with Naz Reid. We saw it the first time against Milwaukee. Mitchell Robinson had a rough, horrendous night. This was by far the first or the worst Mitch game of the year. It was probably his first real clunker. And it's not a surprise that he continues to have major problems against stretch bigs. Brook Lopez, big dude, shoots, pretty physical. But the first possession of the game, Mitch is helping on the Giannis pick and roll that leaves Brook open. And this was a constant theme that he struggled with throughout the night. And it's a constant theme whenever he's got to defend a team that's got a stretch five. I think Mitchell Robinson needs to do a much better job of finding that balance between trying to protect the basket and pick and roll, but also not leaving too much space between him and the perimeter shooter so he can close out effectively. That's something he struggles with when he goes up against the stretch. He had the Dame Giannis pick and roll to worry about, but then he also had the Lopez catch and shoot three-pointer. Right? In the same possession, time and time again. When, Boston plays the Knicks, it's the same thing with Porzingis. So Boston and Milwaukee continue to expose Mitchell Robinson a little bit. And that's an issue because those are the two teams the Knicks are going to have to get through if they want to make their run. But, yeah, Mitch is having some problems. He hasn't been the same for a little bit now. And it's a big reason that the Knicks continue to struggle on the boards. You may look and say, well, the Knicks were only out-rebounded by 1 in this game. Well, they were out-rebounded. I don't care about how many. That's the point. Like, the Knicks are a team who don't just win the glass, but they usually have success because they dominate the glass, and they'll win their games by going +5, +6, +7 on the boards. So, Milwaukee also won the glass 27-18 in the second half, which is when the game got out of hand. Robinson just had 4 rebounds, only 1 offensively in the whole game. Randle only had 6 boards. They got too much size for the Knicks, man. It's too much for the Knicks to handle. They don't do well against size, which is not a coincidence. I don't want to hate on Randle because Randle had a great game, and that's one of the positives that we're going to discuss when we return back from break. Here on BD4, we'll talk some Julius Randle. Stay with us here on the pod.
We appreciate you sticking around and listening so far. When you have a chance, be sure to open YouTube to subscribe, like, and comment. And if you're already watching on YouTube, be sure to head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. We appreciate your feedback and are always looking to improve. Now, with that all said, let's get you back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to episode 588 of the podcast BD4. Yeah, I'll give Julius Randle his credit, man. He had a hell of a game on Tuesday, and I'm going to hand him a bing bong ball.
Bing bang.
Julius on Tuesday, 41 points, 6 rebounds. Excuse me. He shot 14 of 19 from the floor, 2 of 2 on his threes, and 11 of 12 from the free throw line. That was across 37 minutes. Yeah, I mean, you're seeing a different Randle right now. You're seeing a much better, much more aggressive Julius Randle. 1 second here. I just need to fix this. I feel like the frame rate's been dropping, but we'll try to figure this out. He's attacking. That's the huge difference in his attack offensively from earlier in the year, where he was much more hesitant on the perimeter. Right now, he seems to be attacking very aggressively, and he's either generating contact, finishing at the basket, kicking it out. Didn't do a lot of kickouts Tuesday, but that's because he was dropping buckets. He was bullying Giannis, bullying Portis all night. Bumped them off their spots, putting his shoulder into their chest and driving, lowering himself, just abusing. He worked the inside-out game very nicely. I love the mid-range game. That seems to be coming back to him. Those moving mid-range shots he loves, where the defense still isn't set, and he shoots it. He likes those, those low-post turnaround fades. I'm just hoping the jump shot as a whole returns after this game because he did make a couple threes, as well as those short mid-range, those long mid-range shots as well. He was converting. That's the final step, just to find that 3-point ball. But he's finishing at the basket. That's finally came along. He's 77% down there in his last 10 games because he's being smart with it, right? He's getting downhill a ton. More cutting from Julius this year. That's something we always bring up. Saw some more in this game. That helps him get momentum with his size and athleticism. Right, you saw that possession late second quarter where he sprints past the timeline, receives the ball off the Brunson handoff, gets right down the lane against an off-balance Bobby Portis for the finish. So, Julius Randle gets the award from me. Gets another game ball. That's his 4th of the year. And Josh Hart.
Bing bang.
We'll go to Josh Hart, who I thought was great. I wouldn't say great. That's a stretch. I thought Josh Hart was good. let's say that. I thought that Josh Hart was very good. Decent. All right. There were the second quarter was really where he shined. He was a big help in transition early on in the second quarter, keeping the Knicks in it. So at the end of the day, 11 points, 5 of 8 shooting, 1 of 1 from 3, 4 boards, 3 assists. He played better. And he's been playing better, I should say. He's been playing a lot better since he made those comments. Right, in his last 3 games, he's found a rhythm. And yeah, he was really the only semi-bright spot on the bench. The only one who did anything offensively, at least, off the bench. So I'll say that Josh Hart had a fine game. Offensively, yeah, obviously they scored 122 points. The Knicks just had trouble keeping up from 3. 30% on their threes. They took just 23 of them. Milwaukee had the same amount of makes from 3 as the Knicks did attempts. And that's a problem. The Knicks simply didn't get enough 3-point looks up. But that's because Milwaukee schemed them very well. Brunson didn't shoot a single 3 in the second half. Randle, just 2 for 2. Grimes is supposed to be their 3-point threat. He took 1 shot. And obviously we'll talk more about Grimes in a second with his comments and everything. But yeah, Milwaukee they did a very nice job scheming by taking away the 3-point ball. They were playing high up on pick and roll at the level. So Brunson just couldn't walk right into his threes off the ball screen and pull up. They didn't bring any help either, which limited the Knicks. Right? Randle was fantastic, but that's because he bitched and bullied Giannis and Portis in one-on-one. Milwaukee sent no help to him. They sent no doubles. They weren't going to double because they didn't want to be beat on his kickouts. They went one-on-one because they could afford to go one-on-one with, Giannis and Lopez in the back line. That forced Knick role players to go one-on-one as well, and that didn't really work. Quickley and everyone else had trouble. And Quickley was bad. Quickley was horrific. He was a total 0 in this game. Let's just shoot it straight. When you force Quickley to be the one who needs to create, he's not great at it because he doesn't have elite handles or athleticism like elite guards do. And I'm sorry, but that's why I'm kind of hesitant to pay this guy $100 million, because the guy simply has trouble creating against length. He's going to have to find a way to negate that, but until he does, I'm going to have real trouble talking myself into paying a backup point guard $100 million. And he doesn't come through for the Knicks in these big games often. He's had some big regular season moments, but this is a game where, you're trying to go to Vegas, playoff type atmosphere, but his playoff career hasn't gone well either. In this game, just 7 points, 1 of 7. He hasn't been good lately. He's just a little streaky, man. You put a little bit of length on him, you force him to initiate in the half court, and it's kind of becoming a trend where that's when he struggles. I like Quickley, man. I think he's great, but I don't think the Knicks want to pay that guy starter money. That's why it makes a little bit of sense to move him in a deal before you lose him for nothing, because I'm not very optimistic they're going to re-sign him. RJ Barrett was a no-show. Another no-show for him. I think it's over, folks. And that's a problem because the Knicks need RJ Barrett to be like he was earlier in the year. But it doesn't look like that's coming back. Not consistently. It's not shocking to me because I never bought into the stock on RJ when he was rolling for a handful of fluky games to start the year. I was always cautious of it. And right now he's back to that. He's back to forcing very poor shots, especially at the basket. He's doing it way too often. Milwaukee was daring RJ into one-on-one. Didn't look good doing it. His passing, his playmaking, that's tapered off big time too since the start of the season. His three-point ball is finally regressing. I didn't expect him to shoot 50%, but he needs to be able to knock the threes down adequately. But he's missing wide open looks. He's still getting to the line. 8 of 8 last night. He's still playing some good enough defense. But the Knicks need a lot more from RJ than what we've been getting lately since he's returned from the migraine / whatever the hell it was. We're going to talk a little bit more about Quentin Grimes, as repetitive as this topic is, because he did make comments to the media, and we'll discuss it a bit when we return from our break. Here on episode 588 of BD4. 588 of BD4. Be right back.
You can also find us on social media. If you'd like, you can follow BD4 on Facebook, and we're at BD4Pod on both Instagram and Twitter. We appreciate you helping us grow more and more every day. Let's get back to it.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone, and you are listening to episode 588 of BD4. Just give me 1 second here. I just got I get a text from Dugout Mugs. They're a great company. They just ran 50 Juan Soto signature Yankee Dugout Mugs. Low pricing. Price goes up after the first 50. I will pay for that. Give me a Christmas gift. That's what I'm looking for. Hey, whoever's got me for Secret Santa in the Carbone family, that's what I want. I am going to put that in the group chat. That's what I'm doing right now. That's why I don't have the screen up at the moment if you're watching the video edit. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, welcome back to the show. Episode 588 of the pod. Quentin Grimes, after this game, made comments to the media. I'm going to paraphrase. Basically, he said, just complained about the lack of touches that he's getting and how he's on a short leash. I missed one shot. I sub out. And this is definitely a pattern that you see under Tom Thibodeau offenses, at least since he's been with the Knicks. Obi, Quickley have had similar comments in the past. We obviously know that Mitchell Robinson 1 billion times on social media. Josh Hart recently. And again, I see both sides of where Quentin Grimes is coming from. I see the side of where Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks. Let me rephrase that. It's like a chicken and the egg thing. I see the side where it's on Grimes, and you have to fault him. And I also see the point of view where you think Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks need to do a better job. The sympathetic side of me is that sides with Grimes, says, his head coach, his point guard, and even Randle and RJ for that matter, they do need to do a better job of finding him more reps, because he is last in touches on the Knicks, if that's still... I know he was a few games ago. I think about it in like Knick teams a few years ago when Reggie Bullock was here. The Knicks ran those two-man actions between Reggie and Randle. Even when Evan Fournier was active in the rotation, he broke the three-point record a few years ago. They always ran a play for him right out the gate in games. Him and Randle. Fournier and Randle. They had a nice two-man game working. Their chemistry was good. I feel like the Knicks should run Grimes with Randle in two-man actions. They should run him through actions more. Get him running DHO with Julius. Get him maybe in some Spain actions coming off those back screens. Get him in, get him those open catch and shoot looks. Get him setting those guard screens and then fading into space. I feel like there can be more of it. Because the Knick offense is, again, it's very read and react. Brunson off pick and roll. Randle on the block at the post. RJ getting downhill off those screens out of DHO. Little ISO, little driving kick. That's about it. Thibodeau's offense is very star player centric, right? 3 guys out there are going to give you 20 points a night. The other 2 guys are basically zeros on the scoreboard. And this is why I feel like Quentin Grimes should be playing with the bench unit. I feel like Thibodeau should get him away from the starters and have him playing with Quickley off the bench and with Hartenstein, who can pass well from the high post. And have Dante play with the starting unit, because those are guys he actually has chemistry with. Now, the other side of me, which is, I think this is the side I probably agree with more at the moment, is that Quentin Grimes needs to be more aggressive and he needs to attack. He needs to attack his closeouts. He needs to stop giving the ball up so easily, because there were possessions in this very game where he deferred the ball to other guys right away. There was a possession in transition where he had the ball and he's got Brook Lopez in front of him, still getting set. But Grimes passes it off to Julius before he even crosses the timeline. And there were, in both of these Milwaukee games against the Knicks, there were times where Grimes has Dame Lillard on him, who's a very weak defensive guard. Doesn't exploit it. Doesn't attack. When he's off the ball, he stands there in the corner. He doesn't cut. He doesn't drive. He's not flashing anything in his bag when he's got the ball in his hand. It kind of reminds me, and I'm not comparing talents, of Kevin Knox a little bit, how Kevin Knox was just a statue out there, stood in the corner, right? Because every time I want to blame Tom Thibodeau or Brunson or the offense, I look at Dante DiVincenzo. Because when he checks in and when he's playing alongside Brunson and Randle, he's moving off the ball, he's cutting, he's very active, he's doing everything he can. He thrives with the starting unit, actually, right? Like that doesn't stop him from being aggressive and playing with those 3. It's hard. And we knew it'd be hard because of this guard logjam. We knew there'd be conversations about this. But we came into the season hoping Grimes was going to have a big leap. And I feel like Grimes has something more in his bag. Do you remember, I think we brought this up last show, in his first year and his second year, he wasn't totally useless as a ball handler. Like there were moments where he showed a little bit of playmaking, where he flashed that point guard that he was at Houston. When he played college hoops, he was a point guard, folks. I remember he showed the Knicks a little bit on the ball, but right now he's straight line drive, not changing direction when he gets it, not really aggressive off DHO, not using a crossover, no hezzy move. He's got nothing right now, nothing to offer. So I sit here at the end of the day, and I get it. I understand it. Young players struggling. It's tough. It's tough to get those reps when you got 3 ISO scorers, but he's not doing jack right now. He's not taking advantage of the little opportunities he's getting. And the Knicks, at the end of the day, dropped 122 points on Tuesday. What the Knicks are doing, the way they're playing, the way they run half-court offense, as much as I don't like the style, and man, I've had my gripes with it, it works for them. It got them the number 3 offense last year. It has them at number 11 this year, which is a drop off, but it's still a fine number. And Grimes, sorry, man, you can't be going 0 for all the time with 0 points. He's playing defense. I'll give him that. I thought he wasn't awful on Tuesday. I thought he fought over screens well. He broke up some DHO. He stayed with Dame off ball very well. Good ball denial. So I'll give him credit. He's not letting it bother him on the defensive end, though there has been a drop-off there. But the offense, it needs to come around. And I cannot sit here any longer and watch, 3 guys play 3-on-5 because two of them can't score. And one of them isn't really supposed to score a lot. He's a traditional rim-running big man who plays defense, and he's a hound on the offensive glass. The other, though, that's you. That's your job. The 3-and-D wing. You're supposed to knock down shots. You're getting 6 shots a night right now. Dante's getting 7 a night. Not much different. He's taking advantage. So I can't fully just blame the Knicks. I have to look at both sides, and I think I side a little bit more right now with the fans who say that it's got to be more on Grimes. But that's it. That's really all I have from this Knicks-Bucks game. Not too much. I don't want to dive too much into it because then I'll get pissed off. But terrible defense, a tough way to end a streak of 3 games. But yeah, the Knicks have a tough time beating tough teams. So we'll wrap it up when we get to our trivia and parlay after this break. Stay with us here on BD4, episode 588.
If you have time in the day or maybe just prefer old-fashioned reading over listening, then you can always follow along and subscribe to BD4 Blog by going to BD4blog.com. We're not on there as often, but when we do post, it's just as entertaining, opinionated, and passionate as we are on this podcast. Thank you so much. And let's keep on with the show.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. Something wrong with my neck, man. Something like I'm sleeping on it where it's like so tight for like weeks on top of weeks now. Hey, welcome back to the show. Episode 588. Let's get to our trivia. True or false on this one? True or false? Last season, the Knicks set a franchise record for the most points scored in a first half. Twice in 1 month. Is that true or false? Last season, the Knicks set a franchise record for the most points scored in a first half twice in 1 month. Did they do that? So let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. If you get the answer correct, I will give you a shout out in the next episode in front of all 2 of our listeners. So that's nice. Let's wrap it up with our parlay, shall we? All right, welcome to RJ's Parlay, where my degenerate self breaks down last night's parlay. Guess this is from Tuesday night. If I miss, it's not surprising. If I hit, I'll probably just lose it all the next night because that's how this works. Welcome to RJ's Parlay, episode 588. We got a 3-pick parlay, same game parlay on the Knicks Bucks at plus 156 odds, and you can see if you're watching the video format of the show that we once again did not cash. We hit 2 of the 3 picks. We hit the RJ Barrett over 22.5 points, rebounds, assists. We hit the alternate over at 219.5, but we did not cash because we failed at covering the plus 13 alternate spread. Jeez. That was like the least I could do too. Like that, I couldn't even go higher than that. I think the original spread was 5. So we lose again because that's all we do. And that's it. I appreciate you all stopping by. Episode 588 is in the books. BD4. I'll see you in the next show. We'll talk Yankees, hopefully in the next show, but hopefully sometime the next week. Later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you, and we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees, and go Knicks!